Nigeria is yet to achieve self-sufficiency 8 years after the launch of the Nigeria Sugar Master Plan. Nigeria presently is the largest importer of sugar in Sub-Saharan Africa, with annual imports of approximately $100 million. The Executive Secretary, National Sugar Development Council, Dr. Lateef Busari, recently said that the agency is coming up with new strategies to achieve self-sufficiency in sugar by 2023. We will look at this commodity with Damilare Adeshola, research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. But first, we will look at the burning economic issues. Well, Damilare joins me in the studio. Hello, Damilare. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Well, we will look at sugar, but let's take a look at some of the economic burning issues there. We have seen the oil price go up. External reserve is up. And, of course, the currency swap, which is supposed to give a boost to the naira, but then the currency seemed to be crashing. Why is it so?
Okay, so in the last couple of days at the parallel markets, we've seen a sharp depreciation. Initially from about 362, it then crept up to about 364, and now it's trading at 366. And so it's a confluence of different reasons. The primary driver for this, first of all, would be the speculative demand. So we know that the budget has been approved by the Senate. It's yet to be passed, but in anticipation for the disbursement, the budget disbursement, usually that comes with increase in forex demand from the likes of construction, so because of the capex. So people would import more for raw materials. And so we've seen, in anticipation of this, we've seen increased demand. And so that's on one front. On the other hand, actually, we've seen that the U.S., so while there's been naira weakness, but there's also been a strengthening of the dollar. So the naira is actually not alone against the basket of about 6 currencies, the yen, the euro, even the rupee. All these currencies have actually been depreciating in the last couple of days. And that's because the U.S. Fed is we're expecting them to increase their interest rates. Yes, in their meeting on June 12th, pardon me. So in anticipation of this, there's been a strengthening of the dollar. So that's also had something to do with the depreciation. But apart from that, I mean, there's also the thought or the opinion that a lot of the drought that has been happening in the parallel market is due to the convention that's coming up on June 4th. The political party APC that is scheduled to hold this convention. So there's been a lot of dollar sales. Yes. So whether it's for motivation purposes or whatever.
What about those preparing to go for pilgrimage?
Yes, well, there's pilgrimage, there's summer holiday. So it's really a confluence of different reasons. So we've seen also the increased demand in PTA. If you look at the IATA rate as well, that is also reflective of the fact that there's an uptick in load factors and all of that. So we've seen the IATA rate has actually depreciated as well from stable at 360 for a very long time, but now it's depreciated to about 361.46. So really, it's just a confluence of different reasons why. So it's a combination of naira weakness due to demand pressures, but also because of the dollar strengthening.
Now, this speculative tendency you've talked about, is it the beginning of a trend, or is just a temporary thing?
Oh, we believe that it's a blip, considering the parameters that we're looking at, because once the budget has been passed, people would go back onto their normal ways and the normal quantities that they were demanding. Also, the point that I mentioned of the convention, once whoever gets the dollar, whoever's on the receiving end of these dollars, they're not going to spend the dollar, they're going to want to spend the naira, so they're going to convert. So we're going to see an excess supply in the middle of June. We will probably most likely see that, and so we don't expect the trend to be permanent. But we do expect things to go back to how they were before.
Now, if the pressure continues, what happens? Will it affect inflation?
Yes, definitely. The imported inflation, because for all processed foods that we import, even commodity products that we import, the likes of sugar and wheat, that could eat into the price of flour and bread. So definitely there are implications for depreciation in the naira, but the naira has been stable for a very long time. We expect the CBN to step in. We don't expect the CBN to sit back and watch the naira continue to depreciate for a long time.
But the CBN has been supporting the
Yes, but we expect that what they possibly would do, if we think it will be a blip, but if for some reason it's not a blip, we expect that the CBN will step in to support some more. So instead of maybe selling once or twice a week, they might increase that weekly sales. And
that will be a drag on the reserves.
Well, that's on the other hand. So it's a win-lose situation. So they have to just look at. But even if it's a drag on the reserves are still pretty strong at the moment, and all prices are still pretty strong, and due to all the fundamentals expected to stay strong in the short term. So it just depends on how the CBN is viewing this, really.
Okay. Now let's look at the commodity in focus, that's sugar. Yes. Why is it that Nigeria's demand for sugar is so high, even as a lot of people are trying to cut down on that?
Well, I think, first of all, the demand for sugar, it's usually in the curve. So usually as people, urbanization, if you look at the top producers of sugar, it's the countries that are fastest growing, whether it's in population or in urbanization or economic growth. So what you would find is that as the economy becomes more sophisticated, as moving on to the middle class, people start to demand for more sugar. So people have developed taste buds for ice cream and sweets and chocolates and all the things that are considered middle class. And so that is what we're presently seeing in Nigeria. But at the same time, there's still been an increase in health consciousness. I mean, you have NAFDAC now requiring that people state the calorie amount and break down the nutritional value of their products. So people who are claiming that the products were low in sugar, it turned out that it wasn't actually. And even things like honey, people thinking, oh, honey is a good substitute for sugar, then finding out that it is actually about the same thing. The sugar levels are about the same, the fructose or whatever. It still comes to about
even
the same
thing. Even the sweetener is not even.
So I think sugar is just it's a necessary evil, really. I mean, you can't live without it. I mean, if you think about it, every single thing. Almost every single thing that we consume, every food that we consume, you may think, oh, because you didn't add sugar yourself. Sugar has already been added, whether it's your drinks or your food, whatever it is. Most times, sugar has already been added in it. So sugar is the consumption of sugar in society is just something that cannot be avoided. It's then the quantity. And for you to want to decrease it, because now if you look at globally, Mars has declared that it's going to reduce its sugar content. Some other companies too are saying that they're going to reduce their sugar content in their chocolates and their sweets. And it would be very, very marginal, because for them to do it significantly, it would taste.
What about the companies here in Nigeria that use sugar to produce their products?
Well, we haven't had, as I said, it's a gradual step. First of all, NAFDAC has stepped in and required people to put that there. So once people start to, right now we're still on the high of, okay, now middle class or consuming more sugar, cream, whether it's donuts or whatever it is that you're consuming. But as we move on, as we become a more sophisticated economy and population, we expect that health consciousness thing would kick in, and you would have rallies, you would have lobbies, and people coming to say, no, our children cannot, there's diabetes, there's dental cavities, there's all these sort of things. Our children cannot continue to consume this much sugar, and then that would now step into, companies will now start to try to reduce their sugar levels, yes.
Yeah. Well, in as much as we have higher demand for sugar, but then Nigeria's output, sugar is very low. Why?
Well, there has been significant investment over time. I think because it's easier to just import it as opposed to trying to, whether it's you're growing it or you're going to import the brown and then refine it or bleach it. But I think that as we go along, we will get that level of self-sufficiency. It's just a matter of when. So we've seen that there has been a little bit of investment. So our output has increased marginally from about 70,000 tons to about 90,000 tons over time. So we expect that over time there will be a trend as the investment in this sector increases over time, we will get to that point of self-sufficiency.
So how do we deal with the self-sufficiency issue? Because Nigeria is the largest importer of sugar, that's in Sub-Saharan Africa. How do we deal with this self-sufficiency and, of course, reduce the import bill?
Well, as I said, it's really just investment, because from the demand side, it's going to continue to grow and more rapidly than the global growth rate, is estimated to be about 1.4% this year. It's going to be faster than that. But then there just needs to be more investment, and people and producers looking to do a little bit of backward integrations, people who do the manufacturing, whether they're the ones who manufacture the sugar and sell the granulated sugar, or they use it as an input in their products, doing a little bit of backward integration and then developing sugar plantations. So there just needs to be a little more interest in that level, in that farming level. So that's really where that target lies. That's where the achievement of that target lies, really.
And what is the outlook for sugar, and how will it affect prices?
Well, so sugar prices have actually been declining. Like this year, the sugar prices have lost about 14%, although in the last couple of days there has been an increase, and that was due to Brazilian mills. A lot of them have been making losses due to the low prices. So now the prices are coming up gradually, but we haven't seen that being translated to lower prices for Nigeria. And I would say primarily just because producers and manufacturers have decided to pocket the difference. So I would say that we expect sugar prices to continue to remain in that bearish market. So we expect that prices will continue to dip over time due to, as I mentioned, the health, global consciousness. And although China and Asia and even Africa would step in to fill some of the demand that Europe and North America drops, but it wouldn't be sufficient to fill that gap. And so we would still see a slowdown in the growth and a reduction in prices. So that ultimately just boils down to whether or not this will be translated into lower prices for Nigerians.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Damilare.
Thank you for having me.
Adeshola. Damilare is one of the research analysts with Financial Derivatives Company.